dating is still a great way to get to know someone and see if you're a good match, whether you use modern methods or the old-fashioned approach. In this episode, we speak with Marie Thouin, the founder of InSight, a mindful dating and relationship coach who helps people of all ages, genders, sexual and relationship orientations navigate the path to intimate love with a growth mindset. Maria discusses how to navigate modern dating and develop a healthy and satisfying relationship.
Hello, everybody. Maria Romano here. I am so excited this morning. I just can't wait to share and introduce you to my guest. I'm part of a large dating industry, I guess, roundtable or organization, we could say now, through Daniel, as we know. And you know what's great about when you're part of a group, it's like being part of a mastermind. You have other people that are in a like industry that kind of just give you another insight and bring something else to the table. And I had an opportunity on one of the Zoom discussions we had to meet my guest, and her name is Marie Thouin, and she is from outside of San Francisco, and she too is a dating industry coach. She's a leader, she's a guru, and I'm so excited to have her on today. And anybody that has any comments, make sure you reach out to me, Maria at True Love Knots. I'm also going to put Marie's information in the show notes. You might want to reach out to her. I mean, she's even though she's young, she's kind of like a legend and definitely, chartering into new territories. So hello, welcome, Marie.
Hello, Maria. It's so nice to be here this morning.
Well, you know what? I am so thrilled to have you. And, we here in Las Vegas welcome everybody that comes in, and especially Californians. As you all know, they're all migrating here. You know that as well.
Of course. It's tempting.
One thing is we're in this great industry. We're about love. And I talk about that I'm also a wedding officiant. I'm in the love business. But you know what? We're in a business of helping people find love, find healthy love, find the right love that works for them. And I think that's the key thing. So Marie, give us a little bit of background about you, maybe where you're from and how you got started in the industry.
Thank you so much. So I came from a pretty non-conventional family. My parents, they never decided to get married or live together under the same roof, but they wanted to have a kid and they were in love and they had this very non-traditional family structure. So right from the beginning, I was brought up with the sense that love and family structures were something to be creative with, not something to just default to one mode, to one mold of acting a certain way. So when I went to college and I realized, people have those very rigid ideas about love, relationship, what this should all look like, I had to be very intentional and develop my own voice in that world, knowing that I had a choice and that I could create the relationships I wanted if I really thought about what is the external sources of authority in that realm and what are the internal ones. So I also started being a bit of someone who my friends would come to me for advice about relationships and dating. I just loved dating a lot of people and learning from each one of them and learning from all the relationships I would sometimes get into. And to me, this was such an education. And then it led me to do a PhD in psychology, which is my passion. I love human psychology, understanding how the mind works. And I really wanted to focus my research on relationships. So that's what I did. I studied non-traditional relationships and just love, how do people bond? It's so interesting. And then after that, I decided to become a coach because I wanted to work with people. I didn't want to stay within academia. I just wanted to be in a realm where I could help and share and continue learning in the field with where people are at.
Wow. And, it's interesting now. Yes, you said that you come from a non-conventional type of family. And it's true. We are brought up, right? What happens is you meet somebody, you fall in love, you get married, you buy a house, you have children. And that is the traditional way. Although when we look at millennials and younger, that hasn't been the traditional way. They meet, hook up, then decide to move in together, maybe have kids, and maybe down the road get married, which is a little bit backwards. Although we are seeing a huge trend in the wedding industry that millennials are getting married. And I don't know if that's because of the pandemic, but now let's talk about people that are actually out there in the dating world. So what is your typical, because you deal in really non-traditional type of relationships, what would you say your typical client, when they come to you, give us a little journey about that and their experience?
Well, really, there isn't a super typical profile of clients because I work with people of all ages, all sexual orientations, all genders. But what people have in common is a thirst for growth. People I work with are people who want to use the dating experience as a way to fuel their journey of personal growth. And I find that just so wonderful and interesting because we all know that dating is not easy. There's going to be a lot of situations, a lot of people who maybe trigger some pain in us, trigger discomfort, trigger sense of either having to reject someone and that hurts, or people reject us and that hurts. Like there's a lot of confusion that can come in, and this is all really great material for going deeper into who are you, what do you want, how can we unwind those points of pain in you that are giving you this experience right now. So there's a lot of windows into somebody's psychology and just way of operating in the world. And those windows provide opportunities for healing and transformation and creating somebody that you can feel more comfortable living with in just independently from whatever relationship you create. So we work on self-relationship first. Or, you know, as a person is dating, we look at how are you treating yourself? How are you relating to yourself? And can we get you closer to being someone that you are just stoked about being? You know, can you come to the point where you're like, I'm so happy to be me? And that creates more openings for relationships, because of course, the more comfortable you are with yourself, the more attractive you will be to others and the more open your heart can be to others. So that's the journey.
That's a great journey. I love the way you unpacked that too. And it's so important. Everybody says it differently. And I think from what we're hearing and what you're saying is, it starts really with who you are, and that, when you have to work on yourself, and that's probably the most difficult thing. And especially, as you said, out in the dating world, because I have, lots of people that still come up to me and say, you know what, I'm afraid to date. And what do you tell your clients? I mean, they're going to go out there, they're going to not make mistakes. They're going to go out and maybe meet somebody that isn't for them. I don't even like when I have to tell somebody, I think you're great, but you're just not a right match for me. I feel so bad. Gosh. Tell me how do you work them through? Or they're rejected. They're rejected. So.
Right. Yeah, it's important to start with baby steps. When people come and they're just afraid of the whole thing, we don't have to go on 3 dating apps. We don't have to go on 3 dates a week. Like, we can start small. And having a coach in your corner, as you know, you also are a dating industry professional, it really helps giving people the courage to go through those experiences, knowing that they are not alone, that they have someone to unpack those experiences with. So giving rejection, like you said, telling someone this is not a great match for me, it can feel so daunting. But if you use that as an opportunity to stay in your heart and to not abandon yourself when you feel uncomfortable and you're like, it's not a match, but giving yourself the challenge to express that with a lot of kindness and connection and honoring of yourself and the other person. It requires a bit of a reframing of rejection, in the sense that, we all know that rejection hurts, but if we see it as something that just opens the door for the right person to come in. If something is not right, if there's not a compatibility with another person, obviously it's not meant to be. So to be able to express that very clearly with kindness, with heart, we can then free the other person to find the person that they're meant to be with. And that's the also the framework that we could employ when somebody rejects us, as much as it hurts, when we interpret that as, okay, this was great learning, and obviously this was not the relationship for me, otherwise it would have worked. And here I am with more experience and more data about who I am, who I'm not, and can I also have my own back when receiving rejection. I think that self-care really comes in as something that's super important, because we have to address the fact that sometimes rejection can impact our nervous system, and to be in a place where we take care of ourselves really well, and we can make sure that we eat really well, we rest, we go on walks, we do things that give us pleasure, and put our nervous system in a state of receptivity and goodness and comfort as much as possible. This will alleviate the hurt and the impact of the experience. So there's the cognitive reframing part, and there's also like taking care of ourselves physiologically. These are two of the main pillars of what I would say can really help with the experience of rejection. And then maybe a third one would be to look at, are there things that, again, I can do in my life to be more happy about who I am and who I offer myself to be to prospective partners? Like, do I feel like I have a purpose on my own? Do I have things that I really like to do? Do I have friends? Do I have a community of people that I love? Like, basically, do I have love in my life? And how can I increase that? Because that also makes it a lot easier to go through those rejection experiences and still like your life and like yourself.
That is so true. And you said it was so definitely what you said really makes a difference. And I've said this, of course, to my listeners, but I think when they hear somebody else hear it as well, you know, how you have just phrased it is so important, loving yourself. And I think that's the key thing. And because I work with a lot of people that are, you know, my age and older, there is a stigma, you know, and you said you work with people of all ages. When you get to a certain age, you know, let's face it, we're not the same. I'm not the way I was in my 30s and 40s and 50s. And there's many people out there like myself. And I think that confidence in learning how to love yourself again, and because it's falling in love with yourself again. And like you said, that self-care, I love what you said. It's making sure that you're exercising, whatever exercise is for you, eating right, eating healthy. I think that's the key thing. But did you ever find with some of your clients, that they're in a rush? I know that when people are younger, we hear this biological clock, right? Even men, there's that and then as we get older, we have a mortality clock that kicks in. That's what I call it, is the mortality clock. It's true. It's true. And everybody wants a fast track. What do you tell your clients? They meet someone, right? Hypothetically, they meet someone. This is it. This is the right person. What do you do? Because, you know, we do need coaches, and people don't realize that a coach is so important when it comes to your love life, because it can cost you so much mentally, financially, emotionally, physically, and most of all, time. And you'll never get that back. So what do you, and especially the older client, what do you tell them when they're trying to fast track everything?
I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing to want to commit, you know, and if, you know, there are situations where people just meet the perfect fit and it goes really fast, and that's great. And they have a very long, happy relationship after that. So it's not always bad, but depending on who the person is. The question is, do they have patterns of jumping into things too quickly? Is that something that they tend to do? Or are they jumping in too fast out of desperation?
Okay.
So the question is why? Why is the person in such a big hurry, and how do they act? Are they going to abandon themselves and their standards in the meantime? So I would really question my client if they were like, hey, I just found the person, this is happening, we're jumping in, we're making commitments right away. You know, I would say like, okay, well, you know, who is this person, you know, and are they someone who really meets all of your standards that we hopefully have talked about before that point in the coaching relationship? We probably will have talked about what a person wants in a relationship, and how has this person shown you that they're really able and capable and willing to build that kind of relationship with you? Have they really given you enough data to make that conclusion? Because we shouldn't make commitments on the basis of how much we like someone. We should make commitments on the basis of, is this someone I can really build a relationship with? Because there's going to be a lot of people we can fall in love with and really like, but if they're not in the same place in their life, they might not be a builder with us. They might not be able to really build the kind of relationship we want. So these things are different. How much we like someone and how much there's relationship potential and compatibility. And it's easy to confuse the two.
I think that probably those pheromones are kicking in, right?
Mm-hmm,
That
mm-hmm.
we just, we sometimes have rose-colored glasses, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we're all guilty of that, of doing that as well. And you do bring up a good point, because you can like and love lots of different people, but I think the biggest thing is, you said, does somebody have your back? Is somebody there for you? I find that the true test too is, we know that we want to be around somebody when everything is happy and everything is always fabulous, but there are going to be times in relationships where things aren't, especially as we age. We have a tendency, we might have some medical issues, things that impede us from doing things. So I think that makes a big difference. But I want to turn this around just a little bit, because I was looking at your bio, and you actually have your theory that you wrote in your doctorate. Okay. 500 and some odd pages. I was blown away. Okay. I want you to, I said, oh my God. But you know what? When you're going on for a doctorate, that's one thing you have to do. And you talk about compersion.
Yes, compersion.
And I never knew the term. Okay. And I know that you did, because you said you came from a very non-conventional, traditional type of, family, and how you were raised. Your parents didn't get married, and that's fine. It worked. I mean, you're a healthy person. You love helping other people out there. But what made you write your thesis on, what is it called? Non-monogamous relationships. Right.
Yeah.
With consent. Consensual non-monogamous. So it's, CMR or something like that, whatever it is.
CNM.
CNM. I was trying to come up with the term. Okay. Anyway, sorry I botched that up out there, but that's okay. This is what it's all about, being real. But what made you decide to focus on that? And I know that's not your emphasis all the time, because we'll get a little bit about what, you love, your actual business, but.
So, and no worries. I mean, there's a lot of lingo every time we get into like a sexual minority, which consensual non-monogamy is really, it's a sexual minority in the world. So there are people who decide with eyes open, with honesty, with open communication, to not be monogamous with their partner, and to either do swinging or to be polyamorous, which means they have actual committed relationships with other people. There's many ways to have a non-traditional relationship structure that does not involve just two people. And what I find really fascinating about that is that we sort of have a different definition of love, where oftentimes when we think about the traditional monogamous definition of love, it has an element of sexual exclusivity or possessiveness in it. And there is the idea that jealousy is just very natural and it's inevitable, and actually perhaps a proof of love. Like, if you really love someone, you should feel jealous if they're going to flirt with someone or even be involved with someone. It's a betrayal of love. And I like to question that and think, are there other ways to look at love? Can love be something that is not about possession, that can be about commitment, but can also be saying like, hey, if you have needs that are not fulfilled in this relationship and you want to fulfill them in another relationship and it works for everyone, I want to support that. And I can actually be happy for you. So that's what compersion is to be happy, to have empathic joy for a partner's other relationships with other people. And so that to me is so interesting. And actually, there is an equivalent word in Sanskrit. It's called mudita, and that is the idea of empathic joy, sharing the joy of somebody else, even if it does not benefit us directly. And the Buddhists say that it's one of the four qualities of the enlightened person. So they say that it kind of removes the illusion of separateness between us and other people. So the idea that love is not a zero-sum game, that, you know, more relationships does not equate we each have less love. I think that's just super fascinating, and it's always been an area of interest. So I was so excited to study it.
I think it takes a special individuals. You said something that people can fall in love with people, but there's a difference between building a relationship and somebody having your back. And I think that kind of falls into that a little bit. You might meet somebody that you just love being around, that they're a great partner. And I don't mean partner in business, but they're a great partner. But then again, on the other side, there might be somebody else that you also enjoy as a friend. That could be the opposite sex, or even if you're in the same sexual, type of same gender relationship. And then what I'm hearing is that it could also be for sex, but it could be love, but love in a sense that not the same love that you have with the partner that you're looking to commit to. I guess I don't know. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm an Italian girl and I probably would be jealous. So I would tell you. But that's all right. But I understand that there are different, like you said, that we think of love as traditional. Mm-hmm. But I think if you go back to BC, that's not necessarily always the case. And it wasn't always heterosexual either. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're going back to really the basics of when we started. And it's a matter of just loving everyone. I think that's the key thing, and understanding the difference. I did just think it was very interesting of you, Brent. Do you work with anybody in that type of arena, just out of curiosity, or?
Yes. I mean, there's really all kinds of configurations, like you say you would be jealous, but imagine if you had two partners, imagine I have a client who has two male partners, and she goes to, like, they live very close by, and she goes to one partner one day and then she goes to the other day. And both of those men are quite introverted and would feel like maybe being full-time with her would be a little too much. They like their alone time. And she's co-owner in each one of their house. And they have a closed polyamorous unit, so to speak, or a polycule in the lingo. And it really creates a lot of balance for all three of them. And because there is such a balance, there is not jealousy there, because there's commitment, there's a sense that they all are in balance. I have another client who is a swinger, and him and his wife have a really rich sex life, but every weekend they invite another couple to join them and have a swinging element. But their agreement is that they don't make emotional commitments to other couples or to other people individually. Like, they have friends, they have sexual partners outside of the relationship, but they don't make emotional relationships happen outside. And then there's so many different configurations. There's people who, are in a traditional looking couple, but they each have a boyfriend or girlfriend on the side. And as long as there's a lot of communication, and as long as there's a balance in that situation where people feel like they have a full plate.
And you said something at the communication side, because you can't be very surreptitious about it. You have to be open. I mean, I think when you're hiding something, that just makes it, but when you're open, and you're talking about that woman that has the two boyfriends, that, hey, you know what? That might be great, because it's also less pressure. I hope they both cook if I were her. At least they just have to worry about cooking and cleaning.
I think they do, because they're excited to see her, because they don't see her all the time. They're like, oh,
Marie, I don't know, Marie. I think I could go for that. Okay,
right?
No, but I mean, and seriously, but I think the key thing is like you said, when you're open and honest, and you're both able to go work your way through it. If you have a partner that isn't, then I think that's where you're going to have, that struggle. And I think that's the key thing. But and usually sometimes I would think that this doesn't happen. Does this happen early on sometimes in relationships? Do you work with couples? Or let's say after a while, they've been together a long time, they love each other deeply, right? We're back to their butt. They want to explore. And you have maybe one partner is a little resistant. How do you deal with that? Or
Yeah, that could be tricky when one person is ready to go and explore and the other one doesn't want to, or resistance. It, it definitely takes two people in that couple to be on board if there is going to be compersion or even just mutual benevolence. Because if someone feels like they've been dragged almost against their will, it will be a lot more difficult. So I think people have to go at the pace of the slower person. So whoever is more hesitant, like if they can be on board just, 10, 20%, start with that. Start with what feels comfortable for both people. Because if you push for, faster openness or opening to other people faster than someone is really comfortable, then it can create a lot of resentment, a lot of pain. And it's a very emotional process. When you think about people who have been monogamous for perhaps decades, and to think about opening up to other people, like for some people, it might actually feel easy. Like they both are like, yes, we're so ready for this. And they find their way quite easily. But a lot of people, they describe this transition as a very intense process where they have to face their own insecurities, their own demons, and they have to create a level of communication that maybe was not necessary before in a monogamous context. Like it really requires a lot of focus and a lot of open communication to be comfortable with integrating more relationships, because it takes already a lot of energy to have one relationship. When you have more, you need to pay even more attention and to invest even more time.
That's so true what you said. And it goes back to having confidence in yourself, having confidence that and liking yourself. So really it goes back to the root of what we started with. Whether you're in a relationship that is non-monogamous, right? Or monogamous, it goes back to working on yourself. So we really, and it's going back to that common denominator. You really have to learn how to like and love yourself. And if there's things that you don't like about yourself, then you need to really try to change that within yourself. So I think that's the key thing. That's very interesting. And I'm glad that you shared that because, well, talking about swingers, I mean, this is Las Vegas here. I'm not going to kid you. I mean, we do have, but again, and I do know of couples that are in very high level positions that they have an open relationship and that works for them. But again, I think, you're going back to being confident in who you are, being secure in who you are, and having that communication with your partner beforehand. Sometimes it can even strengthen, I would think, the relationship because you get to appreciate what you have. When you've crossed the other side, when you look at the grass is greener on the other side, and then I really do like what I have too. So I can see it kind of going both ways. But anyway, and I think the pandemic probably put a little bit of a damper on some of people getting out there, just dating. So getting back to dating, I want to talk a little bit about, you have about mindful dating. And tell us a little bit about that before we get into the rapid fire and we close this, because that's what you do too. It's not that you don't just focus on that one area. Tell everybody a little bit about what you do also with mindful dating.
Yes, exactly. And mindfulness for me is about presence. It's about being able to really be present to what's going on with me. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And can I really honor that? When we're thinking about mindfulness meditation, it's all about being present to the moment, to something that we're doing, and present to the sensations that are occurring in a specific moment. And when we can bring that level of presence in dating, we can really make decisions from a deeper place and communicate from a deeper place and also relate to ourselves from a deeper place and make decisions in terms of, okay, am I making a decision out of obligation or default or feeling like this is what my parents and family or friends, would want for me? Or is this coming from that deeper self-knowing? And making the difference between those two things, what is conditioned mind versus what is a deeper place of self-knowing can make all the difference in building the course of our life that is going to make us genuinely happy. So that's what mindful dating is for me, is to really choose the course of our relationship life in a very intentional way that honors us and our internal sense of autonomy and authority.
Hold on. Okay, Rose, you're part of the podcast. My dog. Rose, hey, we'll cut that out. But you talk about mindfulness and mindful dating. I think as we get to a certain age in life, we become more aware of, are we doing something out of obligation? Or are we doing something because we have to, whether you're in a relationship or not? I think that's the key thing. And you said that. And it's what happens is we get to a stage in life, because I've had more yesterdays than I will tomorrow. Okay. But what you are actually teaching is and anybody out there under 40, oh my gosh. Okay. So what she just said is so valuable, because at this point in time in your life, that's what you should be choosing, is what is mindful, whether it's dating or whatever whatever you're doing, your personal, even your professional life. Mm-hmm. And that's that self-awareness. And I love that. I love that. One second. I have a golden retriever that just loves to talk, but she would love to interview you. So we have a couple of rapid fire questions for you, Marie, right. Coming from Rosie and I. First of all, do you like pets? Do you have pets?
I don't have pets, but I love pets. When I go out on a walk here in the trails and the streets, I just love looking at them. I think dogs are so cute and funny. So I just don't have one of my own.
And another question is, do you have any favorite song that you've been listening to lately?
Oh, that's a great question. Yesterday I was with my husband and we were on the way to a restaurant celebrating our 3rd anniversary of marriage. And we were listening to Celine Dion. And oh my gosh, I love these just like very romantic songs like Power of Love. And it's funny because sometimes I think the lyrics don't necessarily match my philosophies, but I just love those romantic, cheesy songs.
So I'm glad. So interesting enough, you're married. I was going to ask, are you in a romantic relationship?
Yes, I have been married for 3 years and my husband is just so lovely. And it's funny because I came from a very non-traditional family background, and actually to be in a committed relationship and to be married was challenging my own cultural conditioning. So it can go in all directions, It's not just about challenging the tradition, it can be about challenging the non-tradition.
Well, if you ever come to Vegas and want a vow renewal, I'm your girl. So make sure you come call me. All right. Another question is, do you have any favorite movies? Anything that you're either streaming that you're enjoying watching?
Ooh, there's a beautiful show on Netflix right now that's called Sex, Love, and Goop. It's Gwyneth Paltrow, who I think built the show. She's hosting, and it's about couples who come to the show because they're having relationship or sex issues, and they are matched with some different practitioners. They're usually holistic type of practitioners who will help them open up again somatically and sexually with one another in new ways after many years of feeling like they might have been in a rut in their intimate life. And this is a profound show. I would recommend it to everyone who's interested in relationships and how do you cultivate intimacy in the long run.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I definitely will take a look at that, and my listeners as well. So glad to hear that. So before we close, I mean, anything you want to share with our listeners? Do you have any workshops coming up or any podcasts that you do so they can, reach out to you and find out more about you?
Absolutely. So my main offering is one-on-one coaching. So if people want to reach me, they can come to my website at loveinsight-dating.com and sign up for a free 30 minutes exploratory session. And that is the best way to get to know me and for us to get to see if it's a match for coaching. It's a little bit like dating, and we see if we're a match. And I do have events that I'm running pretty regularly. I don't have anything right now coming up, but please keep an eye on my website and also sign up for my mailing list. So I will keep you posted. And if anyone is interested in my research on compersion specifically, I also have a website for that, and it's whatiscompersion.com.
Well, I have to tell you, that is so great what you're able to offer. Hey, everybody, you heard what she's offering, and that 30 minutes, I think, and getting into that mindfulness and insight of finding love and finding yourself. And then, of course, I know you have your dissertation out there. So if you want to read something that is definitely going to blow you away. I only started reading a little bit of it and I said, oh my God, I was so impressed. And, I have to tell you, I really appreciate you taking the time today to come on to this podcast. And of course, it's also on YouTube as well. And I'm linking everything here into the show notes, everybody, so that you can definitely reach out to Marie Thouin. And also, I'll ask Marie if she has any offers down the road to just let me know so I can share it on my social media. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it's all about sharing knowledge, sharing information so we can grow, so we can find the perfect person for it, whether it's one person, two, whatever it is in your life, but have a happy, healthy life. Marie, thank you so much. I'm so honored to have you as my guest.
Thank you so much, Maria. It's been such a fun conversation.